I'm very honoured to have with me today Claire Bennett from Mind, who is going to speak with us about how to deal with situations that may arise in the workplace and how to really be there for our fellow human beings. Claire, it's such an honour to have you here on Fuse.
Honoured to be here, Dan. Looking forward to chatting.
So, if I could start from the place of Mind as an organization, it's a brand that we recognize and we respect, but maybe some people just know the name and not much beyond that. Could you tell us a little bit about the organization?
Yeah, of course. So we're a mental health charity. We work in England and Wales, and our main aim is to make sure that people with mental health problems get both support and respect. So we do a range of things, campaigning on the issues that matter most to people with mental health problems. We work closely with workplaces to help them create mentally healthy environments for their staff. And we also deliver services on the ground through our network of local minds across England and Wales.
So, when it comes to the workplace and the services that you offer, and how that could be an important element of organizations being aware of not only the importance of physical health for workers and for staff, for their team members, but also their mental wellness. What are the things that you would get involved in as an organization helping these businesses?
Yeah, so we work with employers of all sizes across different sectors to really to help them kind of with any problems they might be facing and to help them know how best to promote good well-being at work and also help them sort of tackle the causes of poor mental health at work. So there's a range of ways that we do that. Often it's providing training to staff, particularly HR professionals and managers. And we also have our Workplace Wellbeing Index, which we run every year, which is our sort of benchmark of best policy and practice when it comes to wellbeing. So we'll go in and look at various measures and then give employers a different ranking based on their performance. So it's sort of gold, silver, bronze type style. And then we'll make recommendations for how they can do that even better going forward. But yeah, I guess the main thing we're trying to get across is that it's in employers' interests to look after their staff and make sure they're feeling valued and supported. And that's kind of there's a few different ways that we persuade them of that. So there's obviously a business case. So just looking at the bottom line, employers can save money if they're treating their staff well because you're less likely to need time off sick or leave the organisation altogether if you feel sort of valued and supported. But more than that, we want them to feel sort of like a moral obligation as part of being a responsible employer and really sending that message to their staff that they know that should they need help with their mental health, they'll be met with support and understanding rather than facing stigma and discrimination. And I guess kind of one of the slight silver linings of the pandemic is that this issue is really high on employers' agendas right now. So there's never been a more important time really for employers to invest in staff wellbeing.
The pandemic has proved to be incredibly challenging for families and individuals around the world. And one of the things that I think has made me, I wouldn't say happiest, but most pleased that I saw was the partnership between Mind and the McLaren Formula One team. Because through that partnership, there's been global awareness, whether the people can access your services internationally or not. It's that awareness that's come from it. I'm here in Canada and people speak about this partnership,
Wow.
which I think is great. The transparency from Lando Norris, one of the drivers for the McLaren Formula One team, him speaking openly and frankly about how he feels and his well-being has been something that's been in front of people to see, well, if it can if he's feeling this, it's okay if I'm feeling this as well. There's an element of feeling empowered, or the validation of, well, that's how I feel, or whatever it may be. I'm sure the partnership has proved to be successful, not just in the element of fundraising, but the awareness side of it as well. When someone is in an organization and they feel the liberty and to be able to speak about how they are truly feeling, it's surely got to make such a difference to their well-being and the well-being of their family and loved ones.
Yeah, I think it's a really difficult one because obviously when someone in the public eye speaks out, somebody high profile, that does really encourage other people to seek help as well. We've got research that suggests lots of people are sorry, we've got research
Right.
to suggest that lots of people seek help on the back of seeing a celebrity that they respect or a high profile individual talking out about their own experiences. I think that's especially true of men as well, and men within sport. You know, there is still this kind of macho rhetoric and this sort of these unhelpful gender stereotypes about men not perhaps being able to show their feelings as much as women and people who describe as other genders. But we know that's kind of starting to change, and that's really welcome. When it comes to the workplace, our advice is always, if you feel comfortable to do so, then do talk openly about your mental health. But unfortunately, that still very much depends on the culture of the workplace, and also how many other people you see, not just kind of senior leadership, but people, you know, of all different kind of roles and levels of seniority at speaking out about their mental health. But yeah, we would obviously hope that the employer kind of fosters a culture where people do feel able to speak out about their own mental health. Because, you know, if you don't, I guess it can be harder for your employer to recognise when you might need that extra support. There's a piece of legislation called the Equality Act 2010. So under that legislation, an employer has a legal duty to make reasonable adjustments for any employee experiencing a disability. And because of the definition of being disabled under the Act, that does cover mental health if it's got a significant, severe impact on your day-to-day life, and if it's lasted for more than a year or is expected to last or keep recurring. So lots of people with mental health problems are actually eligible for those greater rights and protections, but don't necessarily know that. So one thing you could do, I mean, ideally you'd feel comfortable speaking to your manager if you're struggling with your mental health. But if you do want that extra protection, yeah, I would suggest speaking to your manager or somebody from your HR team. The work that we do, though, it's really about kind of making sure that support is available for everybody, regardless of disability or mental health. And then it means that whether you're sort of out as somebody with a mental health problem or not, you're still being looked after.
Sometimes people feel ill-equipped or unable to do something, or they feel powerless, or they say, I wish I could have helped, I wish I could have done something. If someone's in the situation where they're aware that someone else, that third party, is having a rough ride, is not experiencing the best of situations, and they feel helpless, and maybe in this case of, you know, this masculine element of the workplace, as there clearly is a problem there, they don't want to say something, they don't want to talk to the employer because it's not their place to do so, they don't want to step in because, well, it's like dobbing someone in, etc. What steps could they take in a discreet way, or in a way to really help someone who is suffering?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one as well, because obviously confidentiality here is quite important. So if somebody has come to you and said that they're struggling, then that's something you need to you're in a privileged position that they've entrusted you with that information. So although you might feel like they need to raise this with their manager, ultimately that would be up to them. So you could sort of encourage them to talk to their manager in the first instance. That's probably what I would do. Or just, be there for them. And also, it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to be an expert to talk about mental health. It can be, somebody could just be having a hard time because of stress, because of workload, things like that. It doesn't necessarily mean they've got a clinical diagnosis of depression or anxiety. So it's really important kind of not to make assumptions about somebody else's mental health or how it could impact on them or their ability to do their job. People with mental health problems can and do make a really valuable contribution to the workplace. At Mind, we employ a great deal of our staff are people with first-hand lived experience, and if anything, that's kind of a bonus because you've got that kind of added understanding and empathy. I guess there's some anonymous routes to getting support, but the only concern with that would be that your employer's not necessarily aware, as I say, that you're struggling, and therefore won't necessarily offer you any extra support. But for example, if you've got an employee assistance program, lots of employers provide that. So that's a kind of 24-hour support line through which you can access counselling or other types of therapy. For men in particular, I think, well, just generally as well, there's lots of kind of self-care things that you can do as well, even in lockdown. So the same things that are really good for your physical health are really good for your mental health. So that's getting outside, getting sleep, regular exercise, keeping an eye on your diet, keeping an eye on your alcohol, caffeine consumption, all of those things. So, and I think often men find it easier to talk to people when they're doing another task, like it might be going for a walk with somebody, social distance allowing, and they might find that easier and less confrontational than calling them up on a video call, for example. So yeah, I think it's really about finding the best way for that person to open up. And even if they don't feel comfortable talking to you, if you've asked them how they are, you've still let them know that you're worried about them and that they can come to you as and when they feel ready to talk about it.
Claire, thank you to you and your colleagues for the important work that you do. If people wanted to find out more information on how they could put plans in place in their workplace and find help, where could they do that?
Yep, so the best thing to do is to visit our website, which is www.mind.org.uk.
Claire Bennett, thank you so much for joining us here on Fuse.
Thanks very much, Dan.